Welcome to Water Within Astrology. My name's Carly. The Leo solar eclipse, also a new moon, beginning a new moon cycle. The moon is disseminating in her glow as we speak. We just had a last quarter moon last week in Taurus, and now we will have this moon coming up in Leo. Same exact point in the sky as the sun, which is going to be at 20 degrees of Leo. This will be happening on Wednesday, which is a Mercury day. Wednesdays are ruled by Mercury, so we're going to be looking at Mercury a lot anyways, because it's a big player in this new moon. Mercury is also in Leo. It is at 5 degrees. Like I said, in Leo, so it's part of a Leo stellium that we have going on. We have 5 things. Count them 5. In Leo, we've got a big, hot Leo summer, okay? And this new moon is the beginning of eclipse season, right? We just had the nodal shift last month at the end of July 26th, and we had the south node move into Leo, the north node move into Aquarius. We're going to talk a lot about that. We'll get into it. But that just shifted, which means the eclipses that we're going to have, because we have 2 eclipse seasons every year, it's not really that rare, those determine, the nodes determine where we have eclipses, right? So this new moon is a new moon solar eclipse. It's creating a ring of fire in the sky, this moon blocking the sun, so to speak, as far as we perceive it here on Earth. And of course, we have to talk about eclipses in general. It will not be visible fully where we are in the United States, but, of course, everybody's going over to Iceland where everybody's going to party and have their eclipse over there. But in history, we actually were very afraid of eclipses, and superstitious behavior was, we were, not encouraged to see the eclipse, look at it with our eyes, and also not encouraged to, as we know, with the glasses and stuff, we're really not supposed to look at it anyways when it's that bright. But we also are gonna be plagued with bad luck and cursed or something like this if we see the eclipse. So it was not a good thing. It was not a party time. It was not a this or that. I don't know what happened for you guys back with that Aries eclipse, but I went out of my way to go and see the full totality. I didn't have to go very far for it because of where I was already located, but I lost a lot of stuff after that eclipse. And what eclipses do is they remove things from us, from our path. They remove things that are keeping us off of our path, off of that north node, right, where society is headed at this point in time as a whole. And this is the south node, which is about removing. It's said to be the tail of the dragon in Vedic astrology. So this is the shitting part, the part that has the butt, and the part that digests and releases, and then we have the head of the dragon, of course, which is about consuming and about, what we want to bring more of into our experience. And so with North Node in Aquarius, we're looking at future innovations, right? Things that might actually seem ahead of their time. And of course, we're seeing the AI, we're seeing the technology, we're seeing the this and that and the space stuff. Right, this weird attack on the moon. What was that? What was that? Who allowed that? String him up. But for real, that's crazy. I don't know what that means astrologically. I'm not really gonna pretend to know, but I know that is a direct attack on the feminine. And Aquarius is a really interesting guy. Right? He's ruled by Saturn. He's ruled by Uranus, the planets of discipline and karma and time, Saturn. and revolution and unexpected wild card vibes here together. That's Aquarius. What is also interesting about this is we still have a Pluto-Jupiter opposition occurring in also Aquarius and Leo. So Pluto is sitting pretty at 3 degrees of Aquarius. It has just gone retrograde. And now it's moving back. It's not going to go back to Capricorn, thank God, because it was doing that dance for a couple years there, if you remember. That was weird and horrible, right? That was very COVID times. Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, very, very COVID coded. Pardon me while I sip my pineapple kombucha mixed with NA, rosé, and orange juice. Because I'm living it up on 8/8. And it's really hot out here. I'm sorry if I'm really sweaty and gross, but we're here, we're doing it. We're here, we're doing it authentically. We're showing up authentically, like Leo solar eclipse would want me to do, okay? So, we talked about Aquarius. We've got Pluto there. Pluto is the power of a planet of power. There could be, some devious things happening in the distance that we don't know about, because Aquarius rules the distance and this far off land that maybe feels unreachable and almost kind of feels like a weird sci-fi dream, which, sci-fi is weird, right? Sci-fi could be real, but it's not. That's Aquarius. It feels like not real. It feels like not attainable, where the way is out of reach, And so that can be frustrating, because those innovations, we need them now. And we need that power now. We need to bring the power to the people, right? Pluto in Aquarius is hopefully going to mean power to the people, because Aquarius is about the greater good. It's the humanitarian. It's the one that invents things because it makes the world a better place for everybody. And so that hopefully is coming around. But this opposition to Jupiter, okay? Jupiter is actually now at 9 degrees of Leo, so it's not at that exact, because like I said, Pluto's at 3 degrees. It's moving the opposite direction while Jupiter's moving forward. And we have, that opposition is still loosely in play, which was going on a lot in the last full moon. And so we could be feeling some of that stuff still, but it's starting to move on. Like I said, Pluto's moving away, Jupiter's moving forward. They're moving away from each other now. But these power plays where there's some maybe run-ins with authority because we're not allowed to have the power yet. We can't and Aquarius is about electricity. And so this is crazy. I'm just going to talk about this because I think it is relevant. There was a guy who viral, content creator guy who moved to Costa Rica and was doing these crazy experiments on free energy run on water, water powered stuff, generators. And he was a solar guy too. He had a lot of solar and stuff, and he was teaching people about it. But first, before he was getting into that, he was going around the world and finding hidden texts and literally just found hidden texts in a Goodwill bin or something, the bins at Goodwill is what he said, I think. And they started to scan them because they were legit books that were discarded, I guess. And I don't know the exact books. They could be complete bullshit. I just learned about this guy, guys. So if this is totally crazy, I just think it's a crazy concept, and I think it's very related to Aquarius because Aquarius is about electricity, like we said. Or did I say that? It is about, bringing that power to the people. What would it mean if we all figured out and were educated on how to access free energy? And what if, because Saturn rules this ancestry, the old elderly and people that have come before, and Saturn is just like about the lineage and the ancestry and like the legacy. Excuse me, a bug just flew up my nose. And so this is something that people speculate we used to have access to as humanity, and now it's like this ancient technology that we're reviving, this ancient like incredible technology that would help humanity so much, and it would be incredible, you know. And they're talking about Atlantis, and anyways, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can go down it. It's Joe Fells, that's the guy who, he unfortunately, the main part of this whole thing, and the reason I even knew about it is because he left this earth, rest in peace to him, and I didn't know who he was before, but he, you know, there's some controversy around his death. I don't want to talk about that. I think I just want to talk about the fact that he was definitely a person who was bringing, like, as Aquarius does with its vessel of water, and water is in this situation, and in Aquarius archetype, the water is the information, because air is actually about information and connecting through communication and talking, and so information is vital. And this is the future information that pushes evolution forward, that pushes the evolution of humanity forward, in a natural way. Like, it doesn't push, because Saturn moves really slow, like an old man. Like, think of Father Time when you think of Saturn. Or I also think of a like angry coach that's kind of older also and can't maybe do all the things that he's telling you to do, but he knows because he used to do it, right? So, like, you know, he isn't just fucking with you. He used to be the best. So now you're learning from this old master guy, okay? So, what's his name? Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi. Everybody makes that analogy as well with Saturn. So he moves slow, and this evolution and this information is coming forward. And I want to say, too, this now has been confirmed as a suicide case, so just holding this situation with peace and compassion. You know, he was a big influencer. Like I said, I didn't know about him before I heard about his passing. I want to send love out to his family and to the situation. It is sort of weird. It's just, yeah, sad, very sad. So hopefully maybe we can still get those books out to people at the very least, because that was his legacy, right? And you know, so that's what he was doing. He was bringing that information forward to people, and, you know, I'm just gonna say it. People think that the controversy is that they think that he was killed because of the information he was bringing forward, and that's that opposite. That Pluto, right, is death. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. Pluto is death, and there's like serious consequences, and like there's we know that there's power in freedom of speech, and in the revolution, and in the power of people coming together, right? And they know that and that Jupiter in Leo could also be the power people coming to grab it back and trying to like hold on when they know that they're losing out on it, and they you know, are silencing people who perhaps, I'm not saying they are, guys, and I'm definitely gonna probably get flagged or something for saying all this, but people are already making lots of videos about it. I think I'm probably fine. If I end up dead too, you know, just know they came from me. I don't know. That is so scary and sad and tragic and like just like totally fucked up, and pardon my language, but like we are really in some really fucked up power struggle times with power people versus the people, right? And power people are like playing dirty, and the people don't want to lose their integrity, and they don't want to like lower themselves to that level, and we're being tested, and we're being asked to like really be patient and really be strong, right? This, okay, Leo South Node is like holding. My favorite version of this card that I have is a mermaid deck, and it's It's a underwater scene where there's a huge net of fish filled to the brim of fish, and there's a merman like opening up the net and setting the fish free and just like holding that strong like opening, and that's the wild nature strength to be able to hold that nature that we have. Not using my mic very well. The strength to be able to hold that nature, that wild nature that is within us all. And that's that Uranus part of Aquarius. That's that, well, and that's that Leo, right? The Leo is all about learning how to tame the beast. And with, Aquarius is like learning how to expect the unexpected. Hi there, Editing Carly here. I just want to talk about this a little bit more and just say that Aquarius can hold the dichotomies of things and of reality. That's what Aquarius is about, is the multidimensionality and the multi-layeredness of reality, and the ability to go higher into those layers, into those higher realities. And so like going so high and maybe getting lost up there in space, right? That's typical. Getting lost out there, needing to ground. Aquarius being ruled by Saturn, this principle of reality, this grounding principle, this heaviness of reality. And then this Uranus, this aspect of turning the world upside down. This planet that has the rings going around the top and bottom, as opposed to Saturn with the rings around. And it's this dichotomy, it's this grounding, but also evolving and moving forward and into the future. Remembering the past, the ancestors, the wisdom of Saturn, and moving into the future and being able to break out of the status quo. It's very dichotomy, it's very contradictory. But the Leo is about, like, right, taming the beast, and then Aquarius holds that dichotomy, knowing that we are dual-natured, knowing that we do have this beastly and wild nature, this Uranus part, and then we also have this structure, and we also have this Saturn wisdom. So there's that. We are really focusing on that Leo energy now for this eclipse. And then, so what's being eclipsed out of your Leo life, out of your Leo house, looking at where you have Leo in your chart? So we have a Leo stellium. That's the big one. That's the first thing. Since it's a new moon, we want to look at what the moon is doing. It's in a trine to Saturn and Black Moon Lilith. Two really kind of maybe not so easy characters, but in a supportive trine. Trine, I like to think of as like, you know how triangle is the most supportive shape in the universe. It's trining, supporting these things, right? So the trine from Saturn and Aries, this independent, disciplined, motivated, maybe feeling like 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brakes vibe, but yet maybe we're getting a leg up here with this trine. And then, you know, the Black Moon Lilith is in Sagittarius. Black Moon Lilith is that part of the moon's eclipse orbit that is farthest away from the sun, from the earth, sorry. It's hot out here, y'all. And so that is about the darkest point of her orbit. That's the darkest, farthest point. Part of the feminine that we feel farthest from, the shadow, the dark black moon, right? And so she's in Sagittarius, which is wanting to rise out of any dark times that she fell into with Scorpio. Maybe she became bitter. Maybe she became resentful and jealous and toxic in Scorpio, right? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Scorpio stellium and I still gotta talk shit because Scorpio can just like really get way too comfortable in that sludge. And so when we get to Sagittarius, it's very much about rising out of that sinking sand. But also taking what we learned in Scorpio, because Scorpio is about maybe going into that dark place so that we can learn and focus and be one with spirit. You know, just you and the darkness and 5 dried grams or whatever he says. Shout out Terrence McKenna. I just think it's important in Scorpio to take the time that you need to just be you in spirit. And that's what it's really about, that intimacy. And you then in Sagittarius, you can talk about your intimacy and your experiences, and you can share them in a way that is also like a master, right? The Sagittarius is a master. Sagittarius is the wisdom keeper, the half man, half horse. And so, anyways, this is supporting us this new moon. If you're maybe, someone who's an entrepreneur, I'd say that's what that means. Saturn and Aries, maybe we're like branching out on our own with something that's scary and hard, and we really gotta just be patient about like planting the seeds and watching it grow, and just like, it's scary, and maybe we're feeling a little bit frugal and like restricted about what we can and can't do because we haven't gotten there yet, blah blah blah, all these things. Maybe we're also like getting a little leg up, like I said, with it still, but that still could be the general vibe of it. And then it could also be this Black Moon Lilith, like, yeah, what we learned in our time with Scorpio, being able to share it, being able to share things that are considered higher education value, like certifications, workshops, doctorates, things like this, retreats, right? Traveling, ways that we travel and learn about things, because like we learn so much when we travel and we move ourselves outside of those are the two aspects, besides the being in the stellium, the Leo stellium. Those are the only two aspects, those two supportive trines, Saturn and Black Moon Lilith, so let's keep that in mind. But we also have, that Jupiter opposite Pluto there in Leo, so that's kind of opposite the moon. Not really, it's at 20 degrees, this is at the beginning, but still opposite as far as the sign goes. The next main aspect is a grand air trine happening between the Uranus in Gemini at 5 degrees, so 5 degrees of Libra, which is where Venus is, another 5. And then, of course, we already talked about how Pluto is at 3 degrees of Aquarius, 2 degrees off, darn it, but close enough in the trine sense. So, what does that mean? All these air signs are working together, there's information flowing, and there is connections being made. Lot of connections being made, especially because it's air, and especially because Pluto is in Aquarius. There's a lot of collaborating. There's a lot of grassroots supporting, collaborating and lifting up the little guy type stuff. That's what I want to see out there, guys. I want to see us talking about things that are new and exciting and inventive and forward thinking and progressive and, future optimistic too, because air signs can just bring this like lightness of heart to things that obviously it's been really heavy. This last Aquarius full moon we just had was crazy. I don't know about y'all, but I smashed my face into the floor. It was crazy. Anyway, so I'm okay. I promise. I think nothing else has happened since then. So, anyways, I It was crazy. It was fucking crazy. Pluto's crazy. Watch it out. Literally, stay vigilant, y'all. But don't live in fear. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm just trying to be real with you. Pluto is not a fun time. And we still, like I said, have this new moon, technically, still opposite, as according to a sign aspect, opposite this new moon. So, it's an eclipse. The new moon, or the full moon, was not an eclipse because it wasn't close to the nodes. We only still have the nodes at 29 degrees of Leo and Aquarius. So, that's why it's close enough, because we're at 20 degrees. And then we have the Grand Air Trine. Again, just support. Support from others, supporting conversations, supporting connections, and sharing of resources, I would say, hopefully, with that connection. Like, you know, there's ways for, there's transactions occurring. And it's beautiful. And I think, like, the more we are able to shine our light, Leo, our authentic light, who we truly are, authenticity and integrity, we can then make those connections more and more and find them more and more. But we got to be able to shine our light and be brave. And that, you know, that trine to Saturn, it's still Saturn, so there really could be feeling like some limitations about it all. But, like, maybe we're bursting through those limitations and we're, like, getting tired of our own excuses, and we're just like, okay, I'm over it, let's just do the thing. Just take a risk, like Leo wants to do. And so, yeah, I don't know what's going on for y'all, but it's a big one. There's a lot here. Mars is also opposite Black Moon Lilith. So there could be some friction. There was a square to Venus last full moon, and now there's a opposition to Black Moon Lilith. Mars is just, like, not having a good time, and he just entered Cancer, so he's really not having a good time being opposing this Black Moon Lilith that's like, hey, don't fucking tell me what to do. And Mars in Cancer is just like, but I just want to fucking take a nap. Just want to eat some food and take a bath. Like, just want to eat a bunch of ice cream. That could be Mars in Cancer, y'all. I am going to a festival the day after this eclipse, and I'm, like, thinking about how that's going to play out, the Mars in Cancer, and I'm like, oh yeah, all the men are just going to be, like, so dancey and flowy, and I'm like, I'm really hoping they're not going to be just, like, reactive and shitty and crabby, and hopefully there's no drama with that Mars in Cancer coming up with that stellium in Leo. That could be a little gross there. Only because I say it, because them together, they can become, like, prideful and, like, snooty, or, like, entitled. The way a baby is entitled to a mother's milk, the way the sun is entitled, or, like, maybe people feel entitled to the sunlight. Yeah. We have to remember that Leo is here to remind us to have fun, and that joy is only found in the present moment, and that we have to stay present and stay in our joy and follow our bliss, and that's what life is about. And to remember that we are alive, and to remember that we are allowed to take up space, and it's okay for us to be seen, and it's safe for us to be seen. And so I will say it. Take a risk and do the bold thing. Wear that outfit. Wear that, whatever. Just be yourself. Don't perform for anyone else. Because you can't compete with someone who's just having fun. And I love that one. Oh, one more opposition I really want to talk about, y'all. Venus is opposite Neptune at the time of this eclipse. So that's, yeah, like Venus opposite Neptune. She's like lost in illusions, or she's like pissed at the illusions, or like coming up against illusions, or like realizing, maybe not realizing, but I mean, she is realizing because she's in that trine to Uranus and Gemini. That's realizing shit. That's having both eyes open. And then the Mars opposite Black Moon Lilith, there could be some shit. We're tired of it not being fair, or us having to play small or play subservient. Big Leo energy, listening to the heart. Mercury in Leo, listening to the heart. What is our heart telling you? Where is your heart leading you? Is your heart leading you into the past with the South Node there? Because we don't live there anymore. There are retrogrades here. So Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Chiron all are retrograde. The North Node and the South Node are always retrograde, but they are also retrograde. So there's Mercury did, clear its shadow on the 6th, so we finally are full speed ahead with that. But we still have these outer planets in Chiron retrograde. So there is a call inward. Remember what it is that our heart wants to do. What it is that our heart wants to create. Right? Because Leo's very creative. Leo is that shining star, but what is it doing? What's that shining even mean? That's our talents. We all have talents. We all have something. That scene from Elf. Oh yeah, we all have special talents. We do. And that's what we're here to do. And we have to follow it, even if it's weird. North Node Aquarius, even if it's weird. Even if it's taboo, even if it's groundbreaking, even if it's ahead of its time, even if it's, gonna rock the boat, gonna break the status quo. As we can see, she breaking. North Node and Pluto together. Now, like I said, Pluto's at the beginning, North Node's at the end. Pluto's not gonna move very fast, but over the next year and a half, it's gonna make its time. Conjunct Pluto, that's gonna be a big day. I don't know the date for that, but that's gonna be a big one. And I'm sure we will talk about it here on this channel. Something else that came through since recording this first version of the video is that this is showing us the difference between what's real and what's fake. And there's a lot of confusion right now with the AI and not knowing what's real, not knowing what isn't. There's a lot of confusion with food and not knowing what's real and what isn't. What's the real way we should be eating as humanity. And then there's, bodies, right? We don't know. People drawing on their eyebrows, people getting implants of their boobs, people being transgender. Like, we don't know anything anymore about, like, who, he, she, they. Like, it's confusing, and, that is true. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that there is a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Like, this Leo energy could be the fakeness being removed from our lives, like people who are just faking it. Okay, welcome back to the studio, and I am now less sweaty and thinking more clearly, feeling a little bit cooled down and ready to talk about the rest of this South Node eclipse in Leo. And what does it mean when all that remains is the light around the sun, this crown, as they're calling it, of the sun, of the king. Sun is the king, Leo, king of the jungle, the lion. And we're being asked to notice who we are when no one's watching, and who we are in the darkness, as they say. So that's pretty powerful. And like I said, just keep doing what makes you happy. So we are going to draw our card now. And of course, I am using my animal oracle deck because, this Leo archetype is pointing to this beastly part of ourselves that we all have, this part of us this primal part, right? This part of us that is maybe living in fear, living in fight or flight, living to try to prove itself, and losing itself in the process. So let me draw a card here. Okay. We have the snake. Transformation, healing, sexuality, rebirth. The snake has been given numerous symbolic qualities over time and across cultures, from sexual, compassionate, and clairvoyant qualities to the cycle of life and death and rebirth. Poisonous snakes have been associated with transformation and healing in Native American beliefs. The poison is thought to activate primal energies, which, if manipulated correctly, can cure rather than kill. In the Middle Eastern epic Gilgamesh, a serpent acquires a flower of everlasting youth, which allows it to shed its skin and be reborn. So, the fire has this legend of the phoenix associated with it. And it's this bird that lives a long time and then comes back after it's been burned, after the light goes out, as they're saying with this eclipse. Maybe we've been feeling unseen this last year with Jupiter in Cancer. There could have been a lot of home time, a lot of feeling internal home with your feelings and your crafts or your cuddly blankets, And we could have been feeling wounded about this, and now we're moving into this eclipse season with Leo, and maybe it's like we're just tired of performing too. We know we can't perform if it's not real anymore. Whatever isn't real is falling away with the South Node. What isn't authentic, and that's the opposite of Leo, is Aquarius, authenticity, which, by the way, is a higher vibration than love. That's crazy. I'm going to draw one more card. All right, well, here, just another card that's with transformation, joy, lightness, rebirth. Perfect. The metamorphosis of caterpillar to butterfly embodies the principle of physical and spiritual transformation. And the butterfly lighting upon a flower is the very essence of joy, beauty, and freedom. The butterfly has been symbolic of the soul in early Christianity, conjugal bliss in China, and change and joy in Native America. In early Minoan and Mycenaean cultures, the butterfly was a key emblem symbolizing new life after death. In this painting, the woman's face is emerging from the chrysalis like a womb, suggests transformation and rebirth. The upper face of the butterfly resembles a Christian Madonna, which it reinforces the idea of spiritual birth and new life. So it's a new moon cycle, solar eclipse, the first eclipse of the season. And then next we have the last eclipse in Pisces. Yes, we do. Let's draw a rune. Ooh, key. Okay. I got the one that looks like a weird brackety bracket. Elder tree. Feminine, dance, and sex. It doesn't have a rune name. That's an interesting one. Yeah, so that could be the beastly part of us, right, guys? I mean, these like primal urges, these desires. Looking back over this message and hearing it again for the second time a couple days later, now hearing this very loud lioness, divine feminine coming through, that is, you know, not only supported by Saturn, this lord of karma, lord of time, that's giving him, this gatekeeper, that's giving this Leo eclipse the permission to bust through any sort of restrictions and obstacles, and also this like suppression, like working through what has been suppressed before, because Saturn rules suppression. And this sexuality, this wild nature, this Leo, this feminine, you know, and yes, fire, fixed fire is technically a masculine sign. But this fire, you know, is kind of like, I think what we're talking about is like this, wild nature that humanity as a whole, not just the feminine, has suppressed or has been forced to suppress by culture. Saturn rules those structures, and like how society is shifting into a culture that now honors and sees the sacredness in all things and holds that dichotomy, right? That same thing, this Northern Node Aquarius, we're moving into a world where we can hold our dualistic natures. And all three of these air signs are dualistic signs. So, what have we suppressed, and what are our desires, and again, what comes out when no one's watching? So there could be a window of opportunity to help us out of that feeling unseen, maybe, if we are feeling unseen. What is this eclipse removing for you, this South Node eclipse, this Leo stellium, this big, loud Leo energy? Hopefully it's pretty in our face at this point. But if you want help, let's look at it. Let's talk about your story. Leave a comment leave a comment below and talk about your story for this solar eclipse if you're experiencing anything. Like, I'm just recording this on 8/8, but yeah, such a beautiful time. I love the 8/8 portal. I love the archetype of Leo, the king, the ideal, right? He's the sun, he's God,
this ideal. Like, and the king was supposedly like this like representation of God, you know, and he wasn't like a pastor, but he was like very much worshipped in the way that a god would be on earth. So it's really, you know, what has happened to the leaders of today, and of course we know what would happen if we lost our leaders and we were just left to govern ourselves. Like, do we have the moral compass as a community, as a collective, to govern? I think so, for the most part. And, you know, I know our voting says differently, but voting is a whole nother can of worms, y'all. So, anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful, enlightening, invigorating, reigniting Leo solar eclipse. And we will see you again in 2 weeks.